a classic business story that many of you may have read in the last 20 years from the automotive industry. Alan Mulally was previously the president of Boeing and was tapped to become the new CEO of Ford Motor Company at a time when they had been losing money for 2 years in a row and were bleeding market share, and their products were not terribly well regarded, and they were quite struggling despite the economy doing okay. And Alan did a lot of things well, but one of the things that he did was he had this one Ford mantra of bringing the team together and wanting everybody to be on the same side. And what he encountered when he came into the organization was a really cutthroat business environment, especially for the executives. It was all about getting ahead. It was all about turning other people down. It was all about never showing any weakness. It was all about, hitting your metrics and protecting your people and hoarding your resources. So you have a lot of people that were highly skilled, that were working really, really hard, that were very committed to their jobs, but it wasn't adding up into a successful company. It was adding up into losing money and pointing fingers at each other. And so he started this, weekly executive team meeting where he was pulling everybody into the meeting and asking how things were going and talking about their problems and talking about the finances. And he had this meeting for months after he took over with all of his top vice presidents and executives. And everybody came into the meeting like, everything's fine. Our thing is going fine. Everything's on schedule. We're meeting our budgets. We're meeting our sales targets. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And the company's losing money hand over fist. So this goes on for months. And finally, he comes into the meeting after like 3 months of this meeting. And he says, all right, I want to status report everybody doing. And one of his lieutenants is like, I have some bad news. We're going to miss the production date on the new Ford Edge or whatever the model was. We ran into some problems and we're going to have to go rework some things, and it's going to slip by a couple of months, and we're not going to be able to launch the product on time. We're not going to make as much money right away as we thought we were going to. It's going to hit our forecasts. And this is not something you do in this context, because this person is showing weakness and everybody's ready to like, oh, you failed us. We're going to tear him down. And Alan's like, Thank you for sharing your challenges with us. What can we do to help? Like, what do you need so that we can get back on track, right? Not how dare you, not you're fired, I'm going to go get the next guy, not, everybody tear into him, I'm going to give resources to a different project because you can't hold your end of the bargain. But like, we're on the same team. We all want this to succeed. What do you need? Right? And modeling that behavior over and over again in those moments turned that company around, turned that company from unprofitable to profitable, turned them into looking forward to the point where they were able to set themselves up, that they were the only one of the American automakers that didn't take a government loan and go bankrupt during the recession of 2008, 2009. Right? They were a much stronger company as a result of many actions that many people took. But from the very top, modeling trust and collaboration as a way out of the finger pointing game was absolutely successful at the highest level in a not, AI taking over the world, but fairly high stakes environment.
Well, Brian, I love this one because actually I heard this one. I was a co-op at Ford in 2014, right at the end of the Alan Mulally era, but that was the first time I heard this story. I think it's great because I'm sure a lot of the community works or has worked in an environment where this is the case, where it's like, we keep asking the questions. Why do I have to keep going in and reporting that everything's good? Why do I always go in and say the metrics are good, and then I have to go back afterwards and like clean everything up and make it look nice? And hopefully I can just, by the time they actually find out, maybe I'll get it back on track, versus just sharing the actual state of the situation and building true trust. I will be transparent with you. You can be transparent and helpful with me. And it is a bit of a Mexican standoff, as we talked about in the mountaintop part of this episode, because in this meeting that Mulally sets up, you have all of these different executives who all see themselves in this hyper-competitive environment, and they're thinking to themselves, I need to look good. I need to do the best. My division needs to be better than everybody else's division. But in reality, what Mr. Mulally wants them to do is to change the culture. He's not trying to reward them for showing a good PowerPoint slide, right? He's trying to reward them for changing the culture into something that is customer-centric, into something that is, cognizant of the actual value delivered to the customer. And so in this situation, it's not the first person that shoots. It's the first person that just puts the gun down and just says like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be holding this gun anymore. I know everybody thinks that this is the thing to do, but maybe I am going to be the first one to put it down.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to back away. But Yeah, the whole point is to take a collection of competitive individuals and turn them into a team, right? We have one goal. We have the same goal. We have different roles to get there, but we absolutely have shared goals, right? Like even in this situation, even when it's a bunch of, bunch of nefarious government representatives and underworld baddies, right? They kind of all have the same goal. Let's not have the AI take over the world. Let's not have the global order collapse. Let's not let the one supremely amoral person in the room be the person in charge. Like that would be a good idea. We all should agree on that, right? Find the common ground, find the basis for like we all basically want the same thing at some super high level, and then let's derive some actions of trust that we can take from that, at least at the first step. Now, it's not that simple, and it doesn't happen quickly. And I think our next episode, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the tactics of developing trust. But at the high level, the unlock is the same. Game theory is a solution to the problem of imperfect information. It's also a solution to the problem of lack of trust. I'm going to do the thing that is pragmatically the most likely to succeed. But game theory doesn't mean that you have to assume everybody else is nefarious. It doesn't mean you have to assume everybody else is selfish, right? A way to maximize your chances of success is to have everybody pulling on the same rope. These things are not mutually incompatible. And so I think that's really important to remember when you're trying to game out the scenarios. Like, you should assume people will behave in consistent ways that they have behaved in the past, but you should also assume that intrinsic motivations can be aligned, that you can get people to be on the same team for real, to recognize their shared goals and to act in ways that encourage those shared goals, even when they have different skills and techniques and viewpoints.
Yeah, the most value for the most people in the situation is created by cooperation. And thus, rather than trying to figure out a way to scam the system, like is the human nature, it seems like, and just like at least get out with your own hide, it's better to flip the situation upside down, right? Like we always talk about on Wonder Tour, flip the script and try to figure out what is the way that I can approach this situation where maybe we can actually build trust and cooperation where previously there was none. And that is what we're going to talk about in the next episode, because that is Ethan Hunt's superpower.